It's buried in a metal box under 10 feet of concrete somewhere. You know.
So first of all, congratulations to a great show. Loved seeing the first 6 episodes of season 2. And I think it's so interesting that the show has such a different tone, I would say, in the second season. So coming from that huge cliffhanger in season 1, can you talk about sort of your main ideas you had for that second season?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a darker tone and it's a more urgent tone. I think that something that I really loved about the first season was you start with these characters in their day-to-day routine, and we spend much of the season sort of in that routine, you know, where they're having these sort of little petty office squabbles, and they're you know going to the vending machine and everything. What we did in the end of season 1 kind of broke the world a little bit, and it certainly broke their routine. And so there was a question of, you know, can we go back to that? And I think we were asking that as creatives, and the characters on some level were asking that too. Is it possible to go home again after you do something this crazy? And also, do you want to go home again? Do you want to go back to life the way that you knew it? So it's changed their routine, and there's also the knowledge that Lumen has been threatened by what they did and is going to retaliate in some way. And so you're wondering what the ramifications will be, and how much danger our characters have put themselves in.
Hallo, ist da jemand? Ist der Vorstand da? Hier spricht Mark S. Moment.
Is it actually true that the idea and concept of the show originated also from your own personal circumstances you had in your work life?
Yeah, I was just walking into work one day. This is before I had a job in the entertainment industry, but I was working an office job and walking into work, and found myself wishing that I could just skip ahead to the end of the day and already be done with work. But then I was like, well, that's a horrible thing to wish for, because we should all, that just means less time, you know, less life. And we should want more of that. And so, but at the same time, I realized that was probably a very universal thing. I think all of us have walked into work wishing that it was the end of the day already. So I everything just kind of cascaded from that naturally.
Ich heiße Miss Wong. Das hier ist mein erster Tag als stellvertretende Leiterin. Mark W.
Wieso sind Sie ein Kind?
Wegen meines Geburtsdatums.
One question that always dives into my mind, especially with season 2 that unfolds in so many ways, is, do you have a master plan? Like, do you have an ending for the show already in your mind and a general outline, or do you develop the show as it continues?
Yeah, we do have a master plan. It's buried in a metal box under 10 feet of concrete somewhere. It's down on the INI floor where we can't get to it. But when I first brought this idea to Ben Stiller, that was one of his big questions, was, do you know where it's all going? And at the time I kind of did, but there was a lot I hadn't figured out. And he and I talked for a long time, and because we wanted to be sure that nothing was arbitrary, even the stuff that seems arbitrary. There's a reason for all of it, and at the end of the day, whether we explain it on screen or not, that we know how everything fits together. So I know where it's going. I have a pretty good idea of what the last scene of the show is and where we take our characters emotionally, but I'm very open to taking side quests on the way to get there, because you have to let the show have a life of its own and be willing to fall in love with things on the show that you didn't know you were going to.
Aber sie sind alle 4 nun das Gesicht der Severance-Reform.
Stecken wir nicht in Schwierigkeiten?
Glaube ich nicht. Milchik sagt, wir werden berühmt.
Is it more fun or is it more terrifying actually watching the subreddit for the show with all the crazy wild theories? Because of course there's a pressure to get fans to see their theories play out or not. Yeah.
No, every couple of days I promised myself I'm going to stop looking at the Reddit because it does have the potential to get a little bit overwhelming. But it's only because the theories are all cool. And part of me wishes that we could make 100 versions of the show that follow each of these paths because they're all fun. And, I have to intermittently take a step back and say, okay, like that's great, but that's not what we're doing. This is what we're doing. But I love it. It's so fun to see people be passionate about the show. And it just really like makes me feel warm and happy. So it's a little bit of a drug. I can't fully quit.
I can imagine that. Thank you so much, Dan, for the quick talk and looking forward to seeing the last 4 episodes of Season 2.
Sie schätzen sie nicht. Sie fürchten sie.